The IVF program could soon be available in Australia. The controversial three-parent IVF technology could save children from inheriting life-threatening genetic conditions. CEO of Mito Foundation's Sean Murray joins me. Thanks for being here, Sean. Firstly, can you run us through exactly what this new technology is?
Yeah, this technology is about preventing mitochondrial disease from being passed on from an affected woman to her child. And mitochondrial disease is, as you've said, a very serious genetic disorder. It's a horribly impactful disease. It does affect every cell of the body, and because it affects every cell of the body, it can present with any symptom and typically presents with multiple organ issues, and it can affect anyone at any age. It gets worse over time, and ultimately mitochondrial disease is fatal.
Just how common is it?
Yeah, mitochondrial disease affects, in its most life-threatening form, around 1 in 5,000 babies born. So that's about one baby born every week in Australia who will develop this disease.
Now, we obviously saw it was legalised in the UK in 2015. Australia is now considering it. Why is it considered controversial?
Well, yeah, mitochondrial donation has not been done in Australia yet, and that's why it's important for us to have a look at all aspects of introducing this technique. As you mentioned, it has been legalised in the United Kingdom. It's currently restricted under Australian legislation. Some would say that's a bit of an unintended side effect of some legislation that was passed some time ago. The specific thing that we need to keep in mind here, or to be aware of, is people talk about DNA, and when most of us think of DNA, we think we get half from mum, half from dad, and that's certainly the case with the vast majority of our DNA. But the quirk with our mitochondria is that they have their own microscopic form of DNA that's very separate from our regular DNA. So with mitochondrial donation, which is this IVF technique, as you've said, it looks to basically bring our regular DNA, half from mum, half from dad, at the time of conception, and put it in an environment that has healthy mitochondria. That's the objective, as we said, to prevent that baby who's born from that technique of developing these horrible diseases.
So with the way that that's performed, what are the risks involved or the safety risks involved?
Yeah, I guess with any new medical intervention there are risks. We can't get certainty until it is seen in humans, and that's true for any form of medical intervention. Certainly the Mitochondrial Foundation in Australia, we've taken encouragement from what's been happening in the United Kingdom, where 3 to 4 years ago this legislation was changed and the technique was permitted there. And we know that an IVF clinic there has been licensed to undertake the technique, and a number of families have attained a licence to undergo the therapy as well. So yes, there are risks, but we believe that after a very extensive 10+ year process in the United Kingdom with 4 independent scientific reviews, there's an overwhelming body of evidence where the scientists and the clinicians in the world are thinking that the time's right for us to introduce this into clinical practice.
So Sean, following a Senate inquiry in 2018, this has now been public consultation is underway in Australia. If it was to be allowed in Australia, what would that mean for your foundation and for Aussies everywhere?
Well, what it would mean for Australians who are impacted by mitochondrial disease is that they have available to them a choice to undertake this technique, if it is right for them, to ensure or to greatly reduce the risk of them having a child with these terrible diseases. So I think that would be a very positive thing. We hear from these families all the time, and typically the kinds of families who would avail themselves of this technique are the families who've already lost a child to mitochondrial disease under what can often be a very prolonged and devastating process. So I think it would mean the world to them. In the absence of any therapies for mitochondrial disease, there's no medicine you can take to treat mitochondrial disease. I think it would provide a wonderful beacon of hope for these families to be able to have their own healthy children.
Sean Murray, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.